welcome to Discovering Saskatchewan's Prehistoric Past, a program about Saskatchewan's historic and prehistoric past. The face of Saskatchewan has been changed by natural forces over many millennia. Within the past 100 years or so, most of the changes that have occurred in the landscape have been a result of humans coming and dredging rivers, breaking land, and building dams, amongst other things. Now, archaeological resources are one of the many things which are susceptible to damage and destruction by these factors. And this fact is recognized in our Heritage Property Act, which requires assessment, sometimes mitigation work to be done if large-scale projects of this sort are planned. There have been many projects, mitigation projects in Saskatchewan. Today we're going to be examining one of the largest that has ever been undertaken in the province. This has been done at Nipawin by the Saskatchewan Power Corporation. Today we're going to be talking with Dr. David Meyer. He's the archaeologist from the Saskatchewan Research Council who has been involved with the excavations in the Nipawin project. Welcome to the program, David.
Thank you, Margaret.
Okay. I'm glad you could make it after all this. Tear yourself away from your other projects. I think we should start off first with a brief examination of Saskatchewan's Power's role in this entire project. I mean, why would they care about investigating archaeological sites in this huge reservoir they're building?
Well, the Saskatchewan Power Corporation has actually a fairly long and meritorious history of involvement with heritage studies in their development areas. So the Saskatchewan Power Corporation has been a good corporate citizen in this regard for quite a while now. Even before there was the heritage legislation that you have just alluded to, the Power Corporation was involved in studies as early as the 1950s in the Estevan area, and also in Lake Diefenbaker before the dam went in there, and at Squaw Rapids, etc. And the Power Corporation has continued to support heritage studies, archaeological studies in its larger development areas.
So this has just been in keeping with a long-standing tradition they already have within the corporation.
Certainly on the part of the Saskatchewan Power Corporation, yes.
That's a rather admirable thing, I might
That's
add.
Right.
Did they approach you to start the project? How did the project begin? Let me put it that way.
Well, these sorts of large projects are tendered. They go out to bid, and we were one of the groups who were invited to put a proposal together and submit it to the Power Corporation. And we did so. There were a number of companies who did so, and we were eventually awarded the contract out of the competition.
I see. Okay. Now, the area where you're working in is around Nipawin. Could you just briefly say where that is and describe the area that you had to work in?
Well, Nipawin, of course, is in the northeastern part of the agricultural portion of Saskatchewan. It's on the Saskatchewan River. It's east of Prince Albert, approximately 90 miles. Mm-hmm. It's just on the southern edge of the forest. It's actually north of the parkland, so it's within the boreal forest environmental zone.
I see. How big an area did you have to work with in the project?
Quite a large area. The dam itself is about 4 kilometers south of Nipawin, and the reservoir, which has been created by that dam, extends for about 46 kilometers or almost 30 miles upstream from the dam. So we were interested in looking at all of the area within the Saskatchewan River Valley at Nipawin that would be flooded by this dam. We were also interested in examining nearby areas that would be affected by the development, by trails that went in, by gravel quarrying that went on. the forest was all cleared within the reservoir, we were concerned that this forest clearing might affect the archaeological sites in the area as well. So certainly in the lower parts of the reservoir, our study area was almost 2 kilometers wide in some places. So it's quite a large area. It's not as large, it was not as large as some of these reservoirs, not nearly as large as Lake Diefenbaker, for example, or even Tobin Lake behind Squaw Rapids.
Yeah, as you say, it's a huge area. How do you start? Where do you start in a project of this size?
We at the Saskatchewan Research Council had been involved in a survey, an initial reconnaissance of that area in 1976. And this involved walking all of the cultivated fields within the area. Perhaps we should go to the slides for some of these, Margaret.
Sure.
On the screen now we have a slide of central Saskatchewan, and Nipawin is on the Saskatchewan River in east central Saskatchewan. The parkland is marked on this map. You can see it's stippled, and of course the grassland is to the south of this. So Nipawin is just north of the parkland. And we as archaeologists are very interested, must be interested in these environmental zones, because the adaptations which people in the past made to the Saskatchewan environment were markedly in reaction to local environments and the food animals, the plants in those environments.
Do you think that region was always within the, what's it called, the mixed wood forest, or is it?
No, it was not always within the mixed wood forest, and this was an very interesting aspect of working in the Nipawin region. And that is, at one time, the parkland zone was farther north than it is at the moment. And this was a period from about 8,000 through to 5,000 or 4,000 years ago. And at this time, you had buffalo herds into the parkland, into the Nipawin area, well north of the major buffalo bison area in the historic period. And we find archaeologically that the peoples who were in the Nipawin area in this earlier period were the same peoples that were in the grasslands and parklands to the south. So although this is now a woodland area, at that time there were people who were grasslands adapted who followed the bison herds who were in the region.
So then you should expect some interesting changes in the sites through time.
That's right. That's one of the things we were interested in examining in the course of the project.
Okay, good.
Now, as I mentioned, this is mixed wood forest, a very pleasant, scenic region. Much of the reservoir on the north side is within the Fort de la Corne Provincial Forest, but the lower part of the reservoir on the south side of the river here is agricultural land. Here we have a shot of the dam itself under construction. Some of our excavations were right within the construction area, and of course we had to do this work before the workmen arrived. Now, I mentioned that one of the things we were concerned about within the valley itself was the clearing of the trees. And this involved, of course, bulldozing of the surface, and we were concerned that this might damage shallowly buried sites. As well, it involved digging deep trenches to bury the trees once they were burned. And this was of particular concern.
Did it seem to have much effect on sites?
Actually, to quite a degree, we found that the clearing of the reservoir helped us, because